All right, guys. Kidology made this video. I'm very interested in it. It's called "The Lies of Alternative Media," and the thumbnail has Andrew Tater Tot and Russell Brandabort. Obviously, I covered the Russell Brand situations. We did like a very in-depth covering of it. I'll put it in the description. Just to be clear, it's all allegations and nothing is like absolutely proven. But I went through like the really big in-depth article as part of it, as part of this thing, we'll say. Yeah. So, and it was pretty intense. There seems to be some proof backing of some of the things he did. But what I found very interesting, and when I was watching the intro or his description of what happened, what I found very interesting was he kind of already set it up to be, hey, this is just a lie of like the media. And I'm not gonna say the media doesn't lie. That would be ridiculous of me to say, like, no, the media doesn't lie, because of course they do, right? Or rather, they sensationalize. A lot of times they don't really necessarily lie. They sensationalize. They take a situation that happens and then they make it seem like it's more than it is sometimes. I think a really, almost a good representation of this is the 24/7 news cycle once 9/11 like really hit. That's all you were seeing over and over again, kind of a thing. You really can't get any information that's proportionate to what's going on nowadays. But anyway, my point that I'm getting at is he tried to make it seem like this was a big hit from the media to try to go after him, when what's probably is not true. And it's just interesting that he appealed to his audience in this, like, hey, everything is almost conspiracy-esque way. So, but anyway, let's see what we got here in this video. Oh yeah, and same thing with Andrew Tate, except he used what's that idiot? Oh, Tucker Carlson to run defense for himself by like completely shifting them. Like Tucker let him shift the narrative and be like, oh, I'm not actually in trouble for anything. It's just OnlyFans. It's like, okay.
Stream to alternative media pipeline is a recent and fascinating phenomenon.
And to be clear, I think that the reason why that's happening is because the mainstream media has lost people because of the sensationalization. I would say, generally speaking, there absolutely are higher standards onto mainstream media than alternative media, but people are kind of just annoyed when they constantly see sensationalization bullshit.
Pipeline is one which permeates the online right and radical leftist rogues who present themselves as being either anti-woke or anti-establishment, respectively. Alternative media is important because it challenges what has in recent years become the lazy monopoly of mainstream interests at the expense of good, thorough, and critical journalism. Not only money, but politics has permeated the integrity of one of society's most important art forms. And yes, although this permeation of mainstream journalism and mainstream media is nothing new, it is manifesting itself in a divisive modern climate in which no accountability or responsibility seems to exist. But I just want to preface by saying that I'm not talking about all kinds of alternative media. There are inevitably journalists, writers, and online personalities who try their best in an increasingly godless landscape. But what I am talking about is a...
True. What the hell? Yeah, true. I would argue that people don't really pay attention to them as much necessarily. I didn't think that this would be close enough to pull a card, but incredible. I would argue that people probably aren't watching the ones that aren't sensationalizing or that are trying to do the right thing as much because, again, that sensationalization is what draws so much attention, and that's why people are so quick to gravitate towards it.
Far more successful form of alternative media that is doing everything but trying its best. It is largely composed of two groups of media personalities. The first group are individuals, mainly failed actors, directors, and writers, who've been...
It is interesting that all these conservatives are that. It's just like a whole organization of them doing that. But hey, God bless.
Rejected by the mainstream media or failed to find their deserved infamy. And the second group are those whom the mainstream media once adored, but eventually canned once said individuals became too great a liability.
Did anybody ever adore Tucker Carlson? I guess. When it comes to Russell Brand, I guess they kind of did. But his character was always this like hyper sensational or sensationalized sexual character that's like, oh yeah, I'm a kind of a predator. Like that's what a lot of his jokes centralized around, is how like inappropriate he was around women. So that's more of a landscape thing.
Scottsdale super chatted $2.54. Mr. Gut secondary school in UK is high school in us.
Boy, thank you, you Roy Git. I don't know what that means. All right, thank you. I know what you're referring to. I thought it was like college or something. You guys are fucking weird, But okay, thank you. I appreciate that.
This Saturday, damning allegations against British comedian turned social media wellness guru and YouTuber Russell Brand took the internet by storm. These allegations and an ensuing investigation, conducted over several years by The Times, The Sunday Times, and Channel 4 dispatchers, has compiled evidence that Russell assaulted and emotionally abused at least 4 women during a 7-year period at the height of...
And just to be clear, again, like these are allegations. They're not 100% confirmed. But like I said, there does seem to be evidence from the researchers themselves that corroborate some of this evidence. Like there was one message in general that I remember reading to a girl where like she said that she was sexually assaulted by him. And then she texted him the next day saying like, well, no means no, what you did wasn't right. And he was like, I know, I'm sorry. And it's like, oh, something along those, I'm paraphrasing. And it's like, oh, okay, it sounds like he did it, right? So listen, it's nothing's confirmed. Personally, I wouldn't doubt it though, based on the character that he portrays himself as, just to be clear. So
his career. One of the women was a 16-year-old schoolgirl. Russell was 31 years old at the time. Russell had the following to say in an under 3
And by the way, it's very interesting because I think, first of all, you're 30-something years old talking to a 16-year-old. You know what I mean? Like, I don't care if it's legal. You should know that that's disgusting. You're old enough to know. If it was like a 22-year-old, I'd be like, that's still disgusting. But I could see a 22-year-old being dumb and immature. But I don't know. This, to me, heavily really like enters like predatory area. The law supports it, but I mean, you're 30-something years old. You should know that a 16-year-old, I mean, that's disgusting, And I think that, I mean, I don't know why we don't have a worldwide, maybe not worldwide, but like we should really, why aren't we pushing laws that are 18 plus? Nobody's running on that platform of like, yeah, we should probably raise the age of consent to 18 standard across like everywhere that we have the ability to, like in America. Absolutely.
Minute statement released a day before the damning article and accompanying documentary were released.
Now, this isn't the usual type of video we make on this channel where we critique, attack, and undermine the news in all its corruption, because in this story, I am the news. I was always transparent about that then, almost too transparent. And I'm being transparent about it now as well. And to see that transparency metastasized into something criminal that I absolutely deny makes me question, is there another agenda at play? It's being clear.
Again, even if whether he's innocent or guilty, he has this hold on his audience where he can just suggest that nothing is genuine. And it's kind of dangerous because that's the people who are going to probably be drawn to Russell Brand are fucking people who distrust the media, understandably so, but to the point where you can tell them that the media is just outright lying about everything and they'll eat it up. They'll gargle that,
To me, or at least it feels to me, like there's a serious and concerted agenda to control these kind of spaces and these kind of voices. And I mean my voice along with your voice.
What I found interesting was his wording.
What he's saying there is like, I'm a threat to them. I'm so threatening because I'm speaking the truth and exposing them that they had to come up with this falsified situation to come after me. And it's like, I don't think that Russell Brand is that much of a threat, to be honest with you. That's just me personally, but
wording that permeates this particular subset of the alternative media. It isn't
if anybody was going to get taken down, I imagine Jon Stewart would be one of the ones that the mainstream media would want to fuck around with, because he's actually, in my opinion, I adore Jon Stewart. In my opinion, he's the one that's like exposing mainstream media. He doesn't talk about how it's all lies and conspiracy-esque. He talks about how it's sensationalized and destructive and a destructive mentality. And like that's who that, if anything, they would want to get rid of. No, the guy that's making them look stupid. So I don't think that the fucking insane conspiracy theorists. Well, and again, I don't watch Russell's content, but I don't think somebody that leans into that conspiracy theory type content is exactly the one that's the primary target. If anything, it would be Jon Stewart, but he seems to be squeaky clean.
Russell Brand is being attacked by a concerted mainstream media effort. Importantly, you are. It is vital that you, as he ends off his video, stay free.
In the meantime, I want you to stay close, stay awake, but more important than any of that, if you can, please stay free.
In a post-truth world...
I can't believe white people ruined the word woke. Am I right? Am I right? Am I right, guys? I stand with BLM. I stand with you. I stand with whatever you're saying.
Where experts are pariahs, where academia has lost its credibility and intellectual culture has rotted itself to the core. The idea of staying free and not believing anything, even claims of abuse which ought to induce outpourings of human compassion, empathy, and concern, works above all to tear our modern civilization even further apart.
Yeah, you know, it's unfortunate though, because there does seem to be instances, and I don't think that this happens as much in the mainstream media as anywhere else, though you could argue Johnny Depp and Amber Heard. It's unfortunate that there are so many instances, from what I've seen on at least on the internet, outside of mainstream media, that seem to be trying to go after somebody with like false out. I mean, I think that, like, you know, Call Me Carson is an excellent example of trying to go after people for stuff like that. I mean, that wears people down when they see some allegations that are false, even though I like to think most of them are like real. Once you see a couple of them, it kind of ruins you. It kind of makes you think like, damn, like people will lie about anything. People are kind of liars. And I don't think that this situation is a lie, to be clear. I've read through everything. It seems credible, but I'm just like, I think that's where some people are coming from, where they're tired of potentially emotionally investing into a topic to find out that there was a lot of misinformation surrounding it. So.
Pajama Pro super chatted $6.35.
Bro, come on.
Demit for making me donate again. Haha, you said in your video that secondary school is college in USA, but it isn't. Secondary school is high school 11 to 16.
Okay. I appreciate that, brother. This rogue just tried to gank me. I just fucking shit on him.
And in tearing us apart, it actually does the exact opposite of what many post-truth devotees really seem to want. A nostalgic sense of community, a life that is full of purpose, affirmative recognition, and above all else, I would guess, is love. Not just love from family, but love from the community in which they immerse themselves in. Russell Brand has successfully rebranded himself as a contrarian in the last few years, and he has clearly filled a void in many a viewer's social media life. His YouTube channel has attracted an audience with a very distinct identity. Although inevitably diverse in identity, they are nonetheless anti-woke, anti-feminist, and anti-establishment.
Yeah, you know, I gotta say, like, that shit is so cringe. Because I understand that, like, we'll call it wokeness, can go too far. And feminism, everything goes, every media narrative, this guy's gonna kill me. Every media narrative goes too far, right? Every social justice narrative goes a little too far. It starts out really good with solid advocacy, and then some people will jump onto it and start using it to be destructive. And I think, like, you know, people do that with feminism. There are people that women are like, hey, we would like to have equal rights, and there's an advocacy for that. And it's like, okay, cool. And then some people will jump onto that and use that to be hateful towards men. And then you have the same thing with, like, the woke movement. It's like, hey, that's just general advocacy for, like, everybody. That should kind of exist. I agree. And then some people will use it to be hateful. You see that across anything. But it gets so cringe when you become so, like, anti-woke. Like, because you're a sheep in the opposite direction. You're not being nuanced. You're just you're instead of agreeing with everything, you just disagree with everything. I don't see how that's any better. You know what I mean? You're just as fucking dumb. At the end of the day, people need to engage in critical thinking skills.
The mainstream media is presented as platforming ideas and people who can be dubbed as postmodernists. And because these viewers and these contrarians are anything but postmodernists, their disdain for our postmodern, or more so just modern world, is positively affirmed by these contrarian thought leaders. The postmodern mainstream media and its followers are a perfect enemy to garner a sense of meaning from. Now, in my opinion, it isn't that these contrarians and viewers actually hate hate women or hate minorities, nor necessarily the progressive powers that be. Rather, it has more to do with a sense that progressive politics has gone too far and they aren't being listened to. What is interesting and what I've personally noticed is that the mainstream media and its followers have almost by default made the immutable characteristics of these normies bad. To be white, to be socially conservative, even to be liberal, to be...
True, and I'm all bad, baby. But you know what they say, girls like a bad boy. Now, back in the day, you had to do crazy shit like steal cars in order for girls to think you're a bad boy. Now I just got to be white and a man. If anything, it's been so much easier to get pussy. Okay, let me tell you something. Those blue-haired liberals, they say, I hate white cisgender white men, but who do you think's tagging and bagging them? This is the weirdest like a joke rant that I've ever gone on, but I liked it.
Heteronormative, to be a heterosexual, is seen as a default bad thing. And therefore, when it comes to these normies who believe themselves to be on the side of reason and rationality, it is almost as if they have preemptively fallen upon their swords. Their responses to the Russell Brand allegations mirror that of the widespread anti-hashtag
truth doesn't matter anymore these days. It's about perception. Is this guy like a person that matters? I see that he's verified, but I have to remember that verification doesn't mean a goddamn thing anymore. And that's something that I really got to keep in mind, because it doesn't mean fucking anything, because you can just buy that bitch now. You know?
Me Too backlash and the increasing descent of gender-critical journalists from mainstream liberal outlets. Basically, the widespread sentiment is that the mainstream media has lost credibility and all reason. And as a result,
it has lost some credibility. Absolutely, it's annoying when to engage in a particular bit of media. You have to put you have to think. Oh, I have to read between the lines, and obviously, critical thinking is important. So I get it, but you have to read between the lines. When you listen to somebody say a particular word, you have to look. You have to basically be your annoying English teacher that's like, let's read Catcher in the Rye. Oh, such and such said that he had to go poo-poo potty. What is the deeper meaning of poo-poo potty? Well, we know back in 1875, poo-poo actually didn't refer to taking a shit. It referred to taking a loose shit. And so maybe he's saying that his life is actually really loose and he needs more restriction. And that's a subtle nod from the author. It's like, that's the fucking kind of shit that you... It's like, I'm not trying to go to a fucking English class when I'm listening to the media. And so it's just annoying. And there are a lot of dumb people who don't feel like trying to parse through that information. So not only is it annoying for most people, but if you're not a super smart and critical thinking person, which is, it happens, you know, I could be dumb as shit and I don't even fucking know it. My wife could be my fucking, she could be like my handler. I might have like a fucking disability. Who the fuck, I don't know. I don't know what my perception of the world is. So, but people, they don't want to parse through it, whether it's because they're not necessarily intelligent enough to parse through it, which isn't like necessarily a knock against them, because the media should be speaking to people in a way that they can understand. Or if they just are tired of dealing with like having to overanalyze every little fucking word. You know, I'm a grown man. I have better things to do than overanalyze every fucking word. And that's the problem. And so like the media has lost credibility. They're not technically lying about like anything that they say, but you have to, but we know that everybody has a different experience with every single word. And it's like, that's the problem. And somebody will have a different experience with a particular word. Like for instance, I talk about this as one of the things that drives me wild about like some progressives, where they talk about how they support reparations. But then when you ask them what they mean by that, they'll be like, yeah, I support reparations. Oh, well, what do you mean? Well, I mean that like we should target the systems that disproportionately negatively impact like black people. I agree with that, but I don't call that reparations, even if it technically is. Why? Because most people think of, hey, here's some money to black people for reparations. And so to me, you're intentionally, at least I think, not communicating clearly so that you can kind of fall back onto language. And that's what we know. So it doesn't matter what the technically this word means. It doesn't matter what technically the word means. What most people accept that the word means. And if you know what that is, I think that's more important. And I think that's representative of everything, of this entire problem, is that people will use particular language to be, in my opinion, intentionally deceptive, because they know it'll trigger different thoughts in different people. And that's the type of language that the media uses. Get over here, pussy.
Viewers and normies are feeling increasingly rejected and isolated from their own media outlets, from their own society, from a very valuable art form which is meant to bring society together, which is meant to offer solutions, which is meant to be trusted above all else. And with the loss of that, contrarian thought leaders have filled a very, very large void. And in my opinion, this is completely understandable in a world where people are increasingly apathetic and disenchanted with modern politics and modern media. But what isn't understandable...
I mean, listen, modern politics and media should be boring as fuck, but it's so entertaining. It shouldn't be. It shouldn't be entertaining. It should be boring, but we've turned it into entertaining. And again, I've really 9/11 24-hour news cycle. It has to be entertaining. Now we're constantly talking about some kind of political bullshit, which means now to get people to engage in it, since it's happening so frequently, it has to be sensationalized, you know. And it's poured into every facet of our being. These hyper sensationalized everything's titles and events and like everything that's happening, and especially with the age of information or media information, with all the media information that's going on, you know, it makes everything seem like everything is fucking completely going out of control, you know. So
understandable to me is this particular subset of alternative media's blatant hypocrisy, its lies, and its commitment to everything but the truth. For instance, although Russell Brand presents himself as hating the mainstream media, he is where he is because of the very media which he now makes money from conspiratorially posting about. Russell Brand was made by the BBC and later by Hollywood. They endured him, made excuses for him, and pandered to him for years. His rebrand and...
That seems to kind of just be his rebrand. I get it. That do be how it is. That do be how it is. I wonder if Russell wouldn't have been the person that he was if it wasn't, we didn't have a society that so heavily justified what he did. Because when you live in like a Hollywood outlet that it's like, yeah, this guy was being very sexually inappropriate with women, but we're gonna suppress that because we have a financial we have a financial priority. You know, I wonder if his behavior would have changed, or if he just wouldn't have gotten famous and he would have just been assaulting people without, you know, us really knowing or even caring, unfortunately, because we only really care when it's high profile people, to be honest with you. It's the unfortunate reality. So
mainstream to alternative media pipelining perfectly represents the unclaimed goldmine that lies beyond an increasingly uncredible mainstream. I suppose my only real question is, what do these contrarians actually want? Whenever they talk about the truth, which is constantly, their objectives are so vague and never go beyond the point of pointing out that everything that they do not condone is a psyop. And as a result, people who do terrible things, as well as their equally self-unaware followers, can take the easy route, because blaming everybody else is so much easier than acknowledging wrongdoing or the feelings and experiences of your universal enemy. In the case of contrarian...
I just want to be clear. I think that, to be clear about audiences, because I agree, the audience of somebody like Russell Brand, you're probably a fucking idiot, but I think most people's audiences are stupid. You know, not even to be a rude asshole. Not, except for my audience, of course. Smartest people in the world. I think that there are some people who critically engage with content and they look at it and they listen to it and they go, okay, I want to actually understand this. And then I think that there's people who decide to gank me because it's a 2v1. Can I kill this at least? And then I think that there are most people who just kind of watch something and they like it because it just resonates with them based on their life experience, and they really have no interest of getting to like any factual foundation. I think people that engage in, and I think that that's for both sides. I've said it before. I think people that are progressive are overall more right than people are conservative, of course. But I don't think that they know why they're right. I think that they are just like, this is, and they probably want to be on like the right side, right? I understand that. So it's easier for them. They just parrot whatever everybody else is saying without understanding it. But I think everybody engages in this. I don't think everybody necessarily uses like a factual foundation for everything that they're saying. So yeah, true. Your average of the Papa Gut audience is like IQ 130 is very true. It's very true. That's why my audience is so small, because it's only the smart people. Like, it's not true.
thought leaders like Russell Brand, like Andrew Tate, like Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens, the universal enemy is always reduced to one group and body of people, women, specifically young women, who are all self-interested, liars, money-hungry, and feminists. Russell Brand made a reference to himself getting too close to the truth when warning his 6.6 million followers about the ensuing allegations on Saturday. But that's the thing.
What is the truth he's getting too close to, though?
Constantly stubbed.
I feel like the corruption in like especially in like first world countries, maybe it's everywhere. It's just so well known. We just don't care. Isn't that fucked up? I just feel like that's true, though.
Me. What is the truth that him and his followers keep harking back to? We are all told that the truth is being hidden from us, or that these alternative pundits presenting themselves as messiahs.
He got 31 million views on his fucking video on Twitter. That's crazy. Andrew Tate Matrix attack. Jesus, wow, the man himself, the boy himself. He's not a man. He's a grooming rapist, sex trafficker. So you can't be a man if you do those things. The guy, the person himself, he's not really a person either because he's a rapist, sex trafficker. So it's hard to be this entity.
And earthly messengers have the means and exceptional knowledge to access the truth. Yet they, in all their infinite wisdom, never ever get to a point where the truth is made universally known. It feels as if I am hooked onto their every word, their every video, their every clip, their every call to action, or to subscribe to the Daily Wire, to subscribe to their Rumble channel, to subscribe to their newsletter. It feels like a bizarre MLM scam that you are just increasingly holding onto with hope and faith in the absence of any other God to believe in. And when snippets of the truth or the message are made known, it's never anything exceptional. It never goes beyond anything that Jordan Peterson or Jesus Christ himself before him had to say. Clean your room or do unto others as you'd have them do unto you. It's so simple, but none of us, including these contrarians, are at all good at doing any of this, as our current culture wars, as our current gender wars demonstrate so perfectly. The truth is that Russell Brand, like Andrew Tate, like the failed actors and media personalities making it big on Daily Wire contracts, don't care a hoot about you, the viewer, nor about the concept of, nor discovering the truth. These individual careerists and navel gazers care exclusively about their brand, because their brand...
I truly do wonder if everyone knows they're lying. Or rather, if it's an intentional lie where it's like, I know what I'm doing is wrong. That's what it is. I wonder if these people think that what they're doing is wrong. Or if they're bypassing some obvious, they're being untruthful in ways and just saying it's justifiable because I know that I'm right intuitively. They think that they're right, rather. And so it's justifiable for me to misrepresent something because how I feel is the priority. For trans people, when you see Matt Walsh go on to Joe Rogan and go like, there's like 1 million kids that have transitioned. And he's like, well, it's like 5,000. He's like, well, it feels like 1 million. It's like, you don't really know why you're right, but you feel like you're right. So you're just gonna be like, no, I feel this way. And I wonder if it's an intentional, I wonder if they feel justified in what they're doing for personal reasons. They probably do. They probably feel justified about lying because they feel like they're right in the end.
And is a superhuman manifestation of themselves and their egos. It has nothing to do with the truth, but with their media survival at all.
Experience said there's a ton of conservative pundits she's debated with, and when their cameras are off, she goes, okay, cameras off, we can stop the charade. Interesting.
And any cost. They have no interest in ending nor winning a culture war, which made them and continues to make them. They are the perfect war profiteers, whose entire objective is to make you believe that all you want is an end to the war, whilst ensuring that the war continues to the end of time. Now, as somebody who has as damning claims against the online left and the mainstream media, I really have no agenda beyond that of being incredibly apathetic and annoyed by this entire landscape which we find ourselves in. My agenda doesn't go beyond pointing out how the alternative media is merely a less accountable mirror reflection of the mainstream media. Just like the BBC and Channel 4 didn't care about the young woman victimized, abused, and completely mistreated by Russell Brand, this subset of alternative media, polluted with mainstream media's biggest rejects and failures.
Yeah, they're referring to the originally when the claims came out. The BBC had some form of knowledge about it. That was the claim, and they didn't care at the time because that's socially they just didn't care. So that's what that's referring to in that instance. So
doesn't care about the world its viewers inhabit, nor the sense of victimhood which they feel. It is becoming clearer and clearer to me that alternative media benefits from the exact same type of untouchability as it claims the mainstream media benefits from. Candace Owens can, as she claims, interview a sex trafficker. She can, in the same interview.
Yeah, I think it's fine, but she ran defense for him. You know, she let Andrew Tate be like, the charges are OnlyFans. It's nothing else like that. You know, instead of actually being honest and truthful. And it's so interesting that these conservative pundits will like latch onto actual rapist predators and like just jerk off and come all over it, you know?
You blame young women for all the ills of the world, including being trafficked.
I'm able to think through and acknowledge the flaws of what happens in society when women get power. And if you want to know what happens, look around you. Women fall for emotional arguments the entire time. Show us a commercial, you know, show us, it's so sad. And before they get to the rational aspects of it, they're already invested emotionally. And I think that virtually every societal ill that we are facing today is because of women.
Russell.
So stupid. It's such an interesting thing. It's so non-self-aware to talk about how emotional women are, because women are, of course, emotional, but in this way where like men aren't. Men are not emotional, but if you insult my wife, I'll beat you to death. That's an emotional response. And by the way, I don't even disagree with it. But the point is that we talk about how men are, they're not emotional. But if you disrespect them, they will have an emotional response that is societally accepted as a justifiable response to engage in. Like, yes, if you do insult me or my family, I can justifiably hurt you, and I will be, you know, good with myself. Men are aggressive. They're the ones that are killing more, causing more physical and sexual violence, because they are emotional creatures that act on their impulses just like women. They just have different impulses to act on. And I would argue their impulses are more dangerous. So
Brand can blame the mainstream media for coming after him because he holds the truth. It doesn't matter that he allegedly rammed his into a 16-year-old schoolgirl's mouth, that he allegedly 3 women and has allegedly conducted himself in a way which warrants at least sexual harassment claims. We live in a post-truth world, and we live in a world in which such individuals...
I wonder if we live in a world that's post-truth, or if we never lived in a truth world at all. Again, I think that I don't think anything has really changed except for the access of information, and we can all talk and have conversations now on the internet, and we could see every day different people being deceptive in different ways. But I mean, like, if we say we live in a post-truth world, I mean, was it really that truthful in the previously? Like, no offense, and I love the concept of God, and I like to think that there is one, but the Bible is just not truthful. I think it's very interesting that we've seen a drastic reduction in religious messiahs and prophets ever since we realized what schizophrenia was. The concept that the idea that we believe, like, oh, a man in a burning bush to talk to me, a Bible that has all these ridiculous contradictions and unjustifiable aspects, the fact that the Bible was written when people couldn't even really read or write, and only priests could translate it and tell you what you're supposed to feel, think, and believe about something. I don't think that we've ever been a society that was super truth-driven or oriented. If there is a God, the Bible certainly isn't a representation of the way that he thinks about the world. There's just so much, there's 3,000 different translations or versions of the Bible together. There's absolutely no way that we live in a true, only if you arguably one of them is true, so I don't know if we live in a post-truth world. I think we live in the same world. We're probably more truthful because there's more access to actual truthful information out there. And there's probably more people fighting for facts, logic, and science than ever before. So yeah, I don't think we live in a post-truth world. I don't think anything's we've probably gotten better. We've probably gotten substantially better. So
can claim that they are the current messengers and messiahs of truth. He's a rebel Jesus being persecuted by the Jews, or in today's world, he's the rebel contrarian being persecuted by the mainstream media.
Oh yeah, well, who controls the media? That's not me who's talking. that's Sneeko. And he's wrong. And also I have some ethnic Jew in me, so I'm safe. Leave me alone.
And as we know, according to many in the post-truth world and some subsets of the alternative media, the mainstream media is run by the Jews. How they grapple with the existence of Ben Shapiro is a perfect example of the mental gymnastics that are constantly performed.
Well, that's why like the very, very, very far right will consume Ben Shapiro and say that he's like another plant.
In pursuit of a zero accountability truth-seeking venture. But I digress. All in all, there is no truth. The truth is really nothing that is being hidden from you.
It's whatever I think.
It is nothing mysterious nor lucrative. It's nothing that you have to discover, or that some lucrative powers that be are trying to hide from you. These are merely distractions from you actually doing the thing that will really make you happy, that will really make your life fulfilling. Practicing self-awareness.
Jerking off, yeah, I agree.
Practicing responsibility.
How do you practice self-awareness? You know, that seems so hard to do. I feel like one day I just kind of woke up and I was like, wow, I'm like self-aware. I'm aware of my actions and the way that I am, and I have agency over myself now. Before it was just like I was a Sims character on autopilot and somebody was telling me when to go piss, you know?
And accountability.
And if they didn't, I would just piss my pants.
As an individual, to yourself and to your loved ones. Spending less time on Twitter, calling out the wrongs of...
Also, what do you think she uses this wooden hand for? You know?
Everybody else except yourself. Practicing your own critical thinking without the insights of contrarian thought leaders who have the intellectual capacities of my middle toe.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that thought leaders are good to engage with because that's how you increase your critical, you know, your awareness, your critical thinking skills. Especially if you go into anything and you disagree with everything, and then you try to find facts to disagree with it. Like you're skeptical is better to say than disagree. You don't want to just disagree with everything. You're skeptical of everything, and so you look into it yourself as you hear these things.
Alternative media is not your friend. The alternative media is there for nobody else but themselves. Andrew Tate doesn't care about young men. Russell Brand doesn't care about the truth or staying free. Candace Owens doesn't care about anything except Candace Owens. We deserve better from the media. We deserve better from alternative media, and it's time that we demand it. Thank you very much for watching this video. Please like and subscribe and let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section, and I'll see all of you very, very soon in the next one.
Okay. She gave us a wink at the end, but to me, it was like when I have a Tourette's tick and I wink because it's not I don't want to do it. It's an accident. It's a psyop. The government is controlling my winks.